Hey there, this is Dr. Pam Perry, and it is great for you to join us today. We have none other than cover guy from a few years back, Dr. Will Moreland. He broke out with this cover, and this is probably one of my favorite covers. But we have a live conversation with him about what's been going on with him. That was 2021. I have not really had a good conversation with Dr. Will in a minute. Been following him on social media, and you can follow him as well, Dr. Will Moreland. But we're going to bring him up right after this. Hey there, there you go. So you are hailing from Arizona today?
Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona.
You travel a lot, so I got to make sure, right? I got to make sure where you're coming from. So you're from Arizona, so you're in the nice area. So we have on this cover the #1 leadership development trainer. I'm gonna ask, is that still true? Is that still true?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Chief Executive Officer of Genius Speakers Academy. Still true?
Still true. We're still rocking and rolling.
Okay. And so the question I want to ask really quick is, what's up with the apple? Okay. That's what everybody want to know. What is up with the apple? Because we see the apple in the picture and we see the apple here. So what is up with the apple? Dr. Will Moreland in the apple. There you go.
Got the apple. So years ago, I wanted to try to figure out a way I could convey an idea that I had to people about tapping into their best self. And to tap into your best self, you got to go deep. And a lot of people, they only go on the surface. And so I started using the apple in my presentation, and I would open up and I would say, what do you see? And people would say, I see an apple. I see an apple. What else do you see? I see a fruit. Okay, what else do you see? I see red or whatever. What else do you see? And then I would share with them, when you start tapping into yourself, you go beyond the core. And so when I look at this, I don't just see an apple. I see apple sauce. I see apple juice. I see apple fritter. I see apple pie. I see apple custard. And so when you start tapping into the best of who you are, you'll begin to see that from your belly will begin to flow rivers of opportunity, rivers of idea. And so I've traveled literally, I have one over there. I've traveled literally all around the world with the apple, showing people that you need to go beyond the surface and get to the core of who you really are so you can dominate.
I love that. Get to the core. So one of the things you said, out of it flows rivers. So give us a backstory. I think I hear a little bit of preacher in you. So I'm going to let you kind of like give us the backstory of how you got into Dr. Will Speaks and all of that.
Yeah. So, I'm getting older now, so I tell people the story gets a little bit longer now, so I got to codify it, right? So I'm originally from Compton, California, and to your acknowledgement, grew up in the church. And so when I was, like 10, 11 years old, it was prophesied. I was at a church convention. It was prophesied that young man's going to be a voice. He's going to be a speaker. So in that environment, when someone says that, when the bishop says that, most everybody thinks, oh, he's going to be a preacher. He's going to be a pastor, because that's the only world they knew, church world. They didn't know anything about keynote speaking or anything like that. And so I've always had this in the back of my mind that I was going to be some type of public speaker. And so fast forward, sure enough, when I got a little bit older, I did become a pastor. I was a pastor for 8 years. And after I was a pastor for 8 years, I decided that I never like to say to go for better. I just felt that God was calling me to different, because I enjoyed being a pastor, enjoyed serving in that capacity. But I just felt that there was something different for me to be doing outside the four walls of the church. And so I stepped down from being a pastor and I said, I'm going into full-time entrepreneurship. So went into full-time entrepreneurship. And as you know,
listen, really quick, going from a pastor to a full-time entrepreneur takes just as much faith, if not more, water walking faith at that point. Okay. So I'm just going to let you stop right there. It's not like he went from easy to easier. He went from easy to probably like, what the heck? Maybe.
So let
Okay.
me tell you. That's what I was getting ready to say. That's exactly what happened. I tell my wife, I say, hey, this is what I want to do. We were living in Germany at the time. I say, we're going to move to Arizona. We're going to literally start from ground zero. All I had at the time was this belief in my heart that there was something different for me to be doing. And so how I got into speaking, well, it didn't go like I thought it was going to go. You know how we write it out on a PowerPoint and an experience sheet and like, okay, boom, I'm going to start the company. I'm going to have a gazillion clients and I'm going to be a gazillionaire, right? It didn't happen. So one day, Pam, I'm sitting at lunch and I'm literally complaining to one of my friends. I'm like, man, it's not working. My savings is dwindling down. My wife is looking at me crazy. She's at the time pregnant at that time with our son. She's like, okay, homeboy, what we gonna do? We in this new state. We didn't know anybody.
I didn't realize that, Dr. Will, at the time that
Yeah,
she was actually okay. That
yeah.
is
He's
a big
14
one.
now. So Champ is 14 now. So she was pregnant with him. And so I'm sitting there and he says, hey man, you should be a speaker. You was a pastor, you should be a speaker. I'm like, what? Because I didn't know, Pam, that the speaking world existed. Now I knew about Les Brown and Lisa Nichols, but I just thought they got hit with a magic wand. I didn't know you could wake up and say, I want to be a speaker. Like I knew, right. I didn't know you could say, I want to do this. I knew about Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, but I didn't know. I didn't know nothing about, that there was this industry called speakers. So he pulls out this check for $3,500 and says, hey man, I just got this for speaking 1 hour. So now he has my attention. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. Matter of fact, there's a conference next week in California. You should come to it. It's about speaking. I'm like, what? Conference about speaking? And so he convinced me to come. I go. It was run by, James Melanchek. And I went there for 3 days. I see 2,000 people. So now I'm afraid because I'm like, wait, where am I going to fit? Where's my voice? It's 2,000 of y'all. There's no space for me in the industry. But the training convinced me enough that there was a way for it. I get home, I say, man, this is what I want to do. I want to speak. And so 15 years ago, we opened up what we now call Dr. Will Speaks, the brand, and here we are.
And that is it. That is it. And so just that's so good. Let's travel back a little bit. So
Yeah.
from a pastor to not really knowing that speaking is an industry, when he mentioned names like Tony Robbins or Lisa Nichols or Les Brown, even Dennis Kimbrough, George
Right.
Fraser, they are full-time speakers that basically are platform speakers. But there's different types of speaker. You can use your voice in a lot of different ways. You can use it for training. You can use it for doing workshops. You can even use it as a facilitator. January, we had Quinn Conyers on the cover. She uses her voice
MC.
as an MC. So you can use your voice and your skill. There was something I heard today. It says Dr. Dennis Kimbrough said, he says, everybody is born with a gift, but you don't make it a talent until you use it. I was like, okay, that's right. A lot of people are born with the gifts, but they don't become a talent until you use it. So you knew you had a gift of speaking and it was drawing you in, but you really wanted to know how to use it as a talent to get paid and how to monetize it, because things like babies and family, they like to eat. So we have to figure out how we're going to make this work. So let's talk really about the areas that you chose and then the next steps, because we connected probably about 10 years ago, I guess, and you were writing your first book, and how that came about of you wanting to write a book, one for marketing purposes, but also to share your expertise. So let's talk about the areas that you wanted to speak in. Obviously, you had a call in your life because you were a pastor, but there were other areas that you felt called to speak in and train in.
Yeah, that's good. So I come off this conference. I'm really excited. I'm ready to get into this speaking thing. And so for 6 months, crickets, because I left there and I didn't have a framework. I didn't understand that this was the speaking business. And so I had the passion to speak. I didn't realize it was a business. And so after 6 months being very frustrated, getting ready to give up, I said, okay, let me sit down. And this is what I did. I sat down and I said, let me look at Les, let me look at George Fraser, let me look at Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, let me look at Lisa, let me look at some of these other individuals, and what's the difference? Because when it came down to messaging, I chose the topic of leadership. I was in the military, I was a pastor, so leadership was my engine. That was my thing. I was passionate about leadership. And so when I listened to John Maxwell and things like that, I said, we're saying the same thing. So what's the, 2 + 2 = 4. So it's the same thing. Why am I getting a gift card and why are they getting $25,000 to speak? I need to know what's the difference. So
I can say, I can tell you, but go on. And for those who are listening, you need to hear that. Okay. Why is someone else getting a chicken dinner and why is someone else getting $25,000? What is the missing piece, Dr.
and
Will?
so I sat down, I said, okay, for the next 6 months, I'm getting ready to study this industry. And so I started studying less. I started studying all of them. And I said, okay, what was the difference? What are they doing different? And so to make the long story short, I came up with this formula. Watch this. You're going to love this. I call it my PAM formula. I call it my PAM formula. So the P stands for positioning. They all took a position on a matter, right? So if you think about Les, his positioning at that time was, if you want to be successful, you got to be hungry. If you want to be successful, you got to be hungry. So every speaker that I saw that was crushing it, they took a position. So if you're a speaker out there, what's your position? When somebody thinks about you, what is your Big Mac? What do they know you about? The second thing is the A, which is competitive advantage. What's your advantage? What makes you different and unique than everybody else, right? There's a lot of black bald-headed speakers out there. What's going to make me unique? So I started looking at, okay, I'm in the military. I was in the military. I was a pastor. I'm from Compton. I lived in Europe for 15 years. What's making me different than everybody else? It's my story. So it's 2 + 2 = 4. But how do you tell that story? So the way I told 2 + 2 = 4, I would say, I remember as a young man, my grandmother would send me to the peach tree and she would tell me to go pick some peaches. And I would go pick 4 peaches. And I never forget, she would give me 2 and she would give my cousin 2. That was the 4. So that's why I always knew 2 + 2 = 4. See, you could tell that story and it'd be your grandfather gave you 4 quarters and you gave your cousin 2. So how are you going to tell the story? And then the last one, I know you'll appreciate this, is the M, it's marketing. What's your consistent messaging in the marketplace? What do people know you for? If today I know you for fish and tomorrow I know you for chicken and tomorrow I know you for oranges and the next day I know you for watermelon and ice cream, how am I ever going to say he's the expert or she's the expert? And so when I came up with this PAM formula, I started to implement it. And when I started to implement it, I started to having success.
Is that when you reached out to me?
Pam, go find Pam. Go find all the Pams in the world. My mom's name is Pam. So
well, I was always the one. I see every speaker, and I'm glad you said that because they do need their own framework. They need to have their own epiphany about how you're really going to make that work. Because probably over the last 8 years, Speakers Magazine has been around, thanks to Brian Oles. We're partners with him and Brian Oles. But I find that there's so many speakers out there, and a lot of them are just what I want to say. They're vanilla. They're white noise. There's nothing different about them. I'm a women's empowerment speaker. I'm a health speaker. I'm a this type, and they're all saying, or they'll just say, I'm a speaker. I'll speak on anything, and that's the worst. And so when you tell me that it is about really, how to position and really, really what is your competitive advantage and to study. The thing that you said was study that they don't know. James Malachek was from years ago. I remember James Malachek. He did speaking to youth or something like that, a youth speaker or colleges or whatever. But there's so many other trainers of speakers. Or if you just need to speak better, I find a lot of speakers need to speak better, which I don't really do any of that. I just promote them. But Toastmasters is really good, or just keep speaking to get better. But you were a pastor, so you had that gift and the talent of that, but you needed the business part. And joining organizations like Black Speakers Network, or even joining NSA or Black NSA. I have a program called Ready, Set, Go, Speak that really talks about the business and marketing and promoting of that, because you can be the best kept secret, but nobody knows how to hire you. Now, talking really, really quick about Black history. There's a lot going on in the world. There's so much divide going on. There is I've never seen, and I'm a child of the 60s, I've never seen such a divide. What do you think speakers, especially Black speakers, because that's really my passion to really help Black subject matter experts, what message should they be speaking on or standing on, or, because the people are saying DEI is going away. What is your formula that, or antidote, I guess you would say? What is your antidote for some of the ailments that we have right now?
So understanding, once again, as a speaker, the Bible says life and death is in the power of the tongue. So realizing words can build us up or words can tear us down. So if you look at history, it's always been words. It's always been communications to bring us together or even to divide us. So it's the same thing in 2025. So if you're a speaker, I want you to think about using your platform to bring people together. People, you're an instrument of unity. And so think about ways, even when we think about DEI, right? What are some ways you can say that more creatively? If that is the trigger, we're not going to use the trigger. I was just with a group of CEOs the other day, and they were asking me about that. What should be their approach? And here's something interesting. Words again, Pam. I grew up once again in Compton, and right across from us is a city called Long Beach. That means it's the beach. Now, let me show you how powerful words are. Long Beach, all across the world, wherever there is a beach, property is usually more expensive, right? But let me tell you what we did. We didn't call it Long Beach. We called it the LBC. And because we changed the name, we didn't view it as beachfront property. We didn't call it beachfront property. We said that's LBC. That's where they hang out. That's where that other gang hangs out. But a couple of years ago, I was back in Long Beach. Guess what? Somebody realized that beach is the beach. And they've now redone that neighborhood. They're selling condominiums for millions of dollars in this place that we could have invested in years ago, but we didn't see it as the beach because we changed it. What does that mean to DEI? I told these executives, I said, see, no company is against having a diverse workforce. Are you against having a diverse work? No, Will. No company is against having equity for their employees. Are you against equity? No, Will. No company is against having an inclusive workforce. When you say diversity, equity, inclusion, nobody's against that. When you say DEI, they've tried to weaponize DEI. They tried to weaponize it and make it seem like it's something criminal or not beneficial. But when you look at the tenets of what DEI means, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'm saying, how can you convey that to your clients? How can you convey that to the world that we still want diversity? We still want equity. We still want inclusion. And your uniqueness and your experiences are going to help you convey that.
I love that. I love that. So I'm going to ask you, for those who primarily have had a platform or that's been their area of expertise, where they can, and a lot of them have said a lot of their speaking engagements have dried up because they were a DEI expert, that kind of thing. So give us some advice when we come back after this. What are some of the things that a speaker can do, and what you have done as a leadership trainer, and also what you have done with your Genius Academy as well, that kind of helps speakers make that pivot so they don't use those trigger words? Okay, so we'll talk about that right after this.
Are you ready to elevate your speaking career and be a part of a movement that amplifies Black voices? Speakers Magazine is your go-to resource, highlighting top speakers, industry insights, and strategies to take your platform to the next level. Subscribe today and unlock the blueprint for speaker success. Visit www.speakersmagazine.com, the #1 magazine for Black speakers. Subscribe now and start your journey to success. Amplify your voice. Subscribe today.
All right, all right. Speakersmagazine.com. That is a voiceover using his voice, which is Mark Perry. That is my husband doing the voiceover of that. So he took his gift and made it a talent by using it. So that's the thing. So what can someone do to make the pivot? I have seen so many people crushed because they have had gigs canceled.
Yeah. So we're at a very unique time. Even though we're at a unique time, it's different, but it's the same, right? So when you think about an organization, as long as they have people, they're going to have problems. So what are some other unique problems that companies are having? And so once again, expanding the idea around diversity, equity, and inclusion. What are some other terminologies that you can use? So inside our company, we talk about culture, we talk about resilience, we talk about belonging. And so once again, if you can steer away from those hotbed, cold type of words that are going to trigger, right? Trigger your audience. What are some other words that you should be using? So even in our company, that our consultant company that does a lot of DEI work as well, we've just shifted our terminology. The mission pretty much is the same. And this is what I want to encourage everybody. You have to have the faith to know that there are enough companies, there are enough people that are on the right side of this that are going to see you and still want to hire you. That's what it boils down. As a business, you got to believe and you have to have enough faith. You know, whatever your number is, I tell all of our speakers, you need to get a number. So how many gigs do you need this year? So if you need 25 gigs, right, to make this year a successful year for you, do you believe right there in your city, your country, your county, that there's 25 yeses in your city, in your county? I tell them to go look north, east, south, and west, 25 miles in each direction, and ask yourself, man, do I really believe that there's 25 companies that are going to be on the right side of this conversation, that still believe in belonging, that still believe that culture is important? So I would encourage each of you to really sit down, look at your business and say, where else can I serve in a unique capacity? Because that's going to be your competitive advantage.
Is it? And Dr. Legenia Rucker, she said, shift your terminology. That is so good. And she's talking about that part. So she's part of our Ready, Set, Go Speak community as well. Again, branding herself, getting a lot of publicity. She's written books. What are some of the other things speakers can do in order to, you said study, but talk about Genius Academy as well?
Yeah, so once again, this is a great time to write a book about your expertise in the heat of everything going on. What new perspective can you bring? You know, I was once again talking to these CEOs, and they're very challenged. They're like, what should be my language? How should I how should I approach my team and my employees to let them know as a company where we are on this and what we feel like this? And then as a business, you know, employees and consumers, they need to understand that we're still running a business. And so it's very fragile, right? If my board of directors, if my shareholders are saying we need to go in this direction, then as the CEO, as the executive team, they need to make those pivots. So as an expert, help them make those pivots. A lot of, if you're working in the government space, a lot of tension there. A lot of employees are fearful. So when I work with companies in mergers and acquisitions, and we're talking about culture, and they're afraid, are we getting ready to get laid off or fired because our company has merged with another company, or we were acquired by someone? You just need to start thinking solution oriented, right? As a speaker, you play a pivotal part. And one of the things I've been telling our clients, we're in this with you. We're your partner as your trainer, the same way you have an accountant, the same way you have lawyers. We're your training department. So what help do you need? What services do you need? We can curate some talks. We can have town hall meetings. So just be a person of value inside of your industry.
I love that. And really think of it. People pay for solutions. They have problems and they'll pay for the solution. As a speaker, you're training, you're coaching, you're delivering content, you're delivering value, you're shifting mindsets, you're shifting behavior with your words. And so that's really the main thing. So One of the couple of questions I have. So you talked about people coming together. I like that. That use your words to bring people
Mhm.
together. But what is one of the main things that you found? Was it the books that really made your speaking take off? Because you went from like, okay, I left this one thing. I'm an entrepreneur. Now I'm a speaker. Then you had like a period of time of like, So now once you discovered your framework, what was the main marketing method or the main thing that really made it start to, was it going after different types of clients? Was it getting more social media? Was it meeting me? No, I'm just kidding. Some of
PR.
the things that really made it start taking off, because where you were before, you didn't have to really do digital marketing.
Right.
You know, you didn't have to build an email list. You didn't have to have a sales funnel. You didn't, I mean, so what are some of the steps? You know, I see Dr. Lugino on here as well. Like, what are some of the things that they can do
Mhm.
for value that they can let other people know? Did you just pick up the phone and start making phone calls?
Yeah.
That
Great
part,
question.
that's something people should do. I always say the old phone, like call them and say, "Do you know anybody
Yeah.
that hires?"
That's a great question. And so Stephen Covey, in his book Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, he says start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind. So I want everybody that's listening to me right now to visualize yourself in 2 to 3 years, and what type of speaker do you want to be? What type of speaker? So now once you figure out what type of speaker, I want to be a high level speaker, I want to get paid 10, 15, $20,000 to speak. Now we want to reverse engineer. So now that I figured out where I want to go, now the question is, who do I need to be to accomplish that?
Come
So
on
when
now.
you want to be a high level speaker, you got to ask yourself, what does a high level speaker look like? How is a high level speaker performing? And so here's the game changer that changed it for me. I decided that I wasn't going to just be in the speaking industry. I was going to be a leader in the industry. I was going to be a voice in the industry. And so I started showing up as a voice and not just another speaker. Once again, it's all about market perception. How does
And
the
positioning.
market see you?
Mhm.
Do they see you as a 10, 15, $20,000 speaker? And then you'll appreciate this. The game changer, ladies and gentlemen, it's free to you. It's called social media. It's called social media to build your brand, to build your business, and to build your bank account. It's social media. If they don't know about you, they can't hire you. Pam, you said it
Mhm.
earlier. You can be the best thing since sliced bread, but if they don't know about you. So I began to use the 7 major platforms: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok,
I love
all of
LinkedIn.
these. Pam, we were back around Blog Talk Radio. That's all we had.
Yes,
Remember Blog Talk Radio?
yes,
That's what we
yes.
had, Blab and Blog Talk Radio. Now, all of these different apps, I want people to think about them as TV channels.
Yeah.
I want you to think about them as ABC, CBS, CNN, NBC. You get to, with these little devices we have, you can create your own social media empire
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
start communicating your values, showing up. And so 15 years ago, I said every single day, Monday through Friday, I'm going to show up on Facebook and I'm going to share something of value. That's what I was
Ooh.
going to do. And what happened, Pam, people would, hey, you're that positive guy. You're always being positive. Do you speak about positivity? Can you come to our company and talk about that? Hey, I don't know if you speak about this, but I always see you speaking.
Mhm.
I
There you go.
always see you speaking. So I'm
Yes.
not sure if you speak about this, but I always see you speaking. So your calendar should always be full of speaking. When you have this, I'm going live on Instagram, I'm going live on Facebook, I'm going live on YouTube. You should always have a speaking engagement. You should always have a speaking engagement. Whether they're paying you for it or not, you should have a speaking engagement. I'm showing up and I'm going to be talking about my expertise. And then somebody's going to see you. Somebody's going to say,
Mhm.
hey, our company needs that. Hey, our staff needs that. Hey, our organization needs this message. And so here we are 15 years later. We've built a successful speaking business just by showing up, just by showing up.
I think what you just said about whether you have a paid speaking engagement or not, but you should be speaking. That is your industry. That is what you do. That is a value that you're going to bring. You're passionate about it. You're eating, sleeping, and drinking, speaking. That is it. And you are being the person that people will say, hey, I see you're adding value. I see you speak. I see you're on the Speakers Magazine. Do you speak? And of course, that is the genius part of what it is that you do. And you package your knowledge or your genius in a book. So talk really quick about some of the books that you've written.
Oh, so books have been the game changer, right? Because if you write a book, you become an author. What is the root word of authority? Author. And so what I've used
Author.
strategically to get into different industries, I write a book about it. And so if I'm a leadership expert, I write a book just not on leadership, but we deal with culture and civility. So I wrote the book Leading with Civility. I wrote the book Happy People, Happy Culture. And so it's a lead in, right? It's a lead in. This is what we do every month. We send out 10 books. We send out 10 books to different CEOs. And I write a little note in here. Hey, I wrote this book on leading with civility. Hope that it helps you out in your leadership. If you see there's an opportunity for me to come in and support you in your leadership journey, please reach out to us. If you send out 10 books and one person
right
says
there.
yes.
Dr. Angela Harden Mack, she's also ready, set, go, speak. She says authority, like authority, right? You are author, and now you have authority. And Dr. Lugenia, I want to say she probably has about 10 books at least. And one of the things I want her to do is to make sure that she is mailing those books out. That is one of the things. And she says the root word of author is authority is author. That is so true. So you use your books is a way like a business card in a way.
It's a business card.
It's a business card, but they can read it and consume it and pass it along in a conference, in a meeting where, hey, we're doing a conference next year. I think this guy, you could even put the magazine in the book. And it's like, you know what? He was on the cover of Speakers Magazine. He's probably pretty good, because we don't put people on the cover if they're not pretty good, right? They're going to be really good. So those are the things that really helps position you, package you, promote you, and not just be like, I'm writing these books in a cave and I hope someone discovers them on Amazon.
You got to think about, for most business cards, how many times have we went to networking events and got a bunch of business cards, put them in the drawer, but people don't throw away books. There's something holy about a book, right? You throw away a card, but it's just something holy about, even if I don't read it, I'm not going to throw it away, right? So I'll put it on my desk. I'll put it on the coffee table, but I'm not going to throw away a book. It's something holy about a book, right? That's how people think about authors. That's how people think about books, right? When you say you're an author, and I want people to think about this. It's just a tool in your toolbox. So I want you to think about when somebody's getting ready to introduce you. Today we have Dr. Will. He's going to be talking to us about leadership. Today we have author and speaker Dr. Will talking to us about leadership. Immediately people say, oh, author, authority. I'm going to listen to this author. There was a Time survey done years ago, and they asked people, who are the people that they trust the most? And outside of your clergy, outside of the teacher, and author was number 3 on that list. When it asked people who did they find as a trusted source, it was their spiritual leader, it was their teachers, it was their authors that they listened to. So if you haven't written a book, go write your, not just any book, but your signature book that goes along with your keynote, so you can offer that as well.
Yes, your signature book that goes along with your signature talk, which you should have one, which is a whole nother half an hour that we could go. But people should have that, because whenever, like, say for instance, if a speaker that was booked and then maybe he gets sick and then they need to call someone else, you don't have a week to prepare, but you have a signature talk that you could deliver right away. And that's what you have on a one sheet. That's kind of the things that we talk about, that people should have, those marketing assets. A one sheet, they should definitely have like a sizzle reel. They should have some media clips, because people are Googling you. Even if you're going to go on television, they're going to Google to see what things have been written about you online. They want to see your story. So those are the things that you've done over the last 15 years or so, 15, 20 years, I guess you would say, really being in the industry. And I want to say that they can go to Amazon and get your books, or they can go to drwillspeaks.com. They can go to Genius Speaker Academy. There you teach people about presentation and the speaking industry as well.
Mhm.
Is that well?
Yeah, we focus on the business of speaking. And so what we found out was everybody comes with passion, everybody comes with a story, and there's some great speakers out there that teach on that. What I found out where a lot of people were struggling was the business side of it. We enter this as a practitioner, and I just want to speak. I just love to help people, but you got to become an entrepreneur. And so at our academy, we teach you the foundations of creating a successful business, what we call a thriving speaker business.
That's true, and really comes down to sales. You
And
gotta
all of this
sell.
other
You
stuff
gotta
we
sell
talk
something.
about, we talk about this concept of make the yes easy. So your branding, the book, the marketing, it makes the yes easy. And so when you're asking people to cut you this check, when they Google you and they look at your website, is it an easy yes? Or are they, I don't, they said they're a speaker, but they're selling oil over here on the other side. Are they really a speaker? So I want you to reverse engineer it again. If you want somebody to give you a check for 5,000, 10,000, what are some of their fears? They want to know if you're good. They want to know if somebody else has paid that type of money for you. That's where testimonials come in. And so I want you to think about the person you want to hire you. What are their fears? What are their reservations? This is a risk for them. If their boss told them, go find us a speaker for our conference, man, a lot is riding on that. And so if you get up there and bomb, if you haven't been practicing, if you haven't become the expert, that's where that fear comes in. So you want to do everything on your side to remove that fear. When they come to my website, I want them to know, oh, we got our guy. We got our person.
Yes.
Oh, we know he's about to rock it out. So that's where those reels come in. That's where that testimonial comes. That's when that book comes in. All of that plays a part in making that yes easier.
And the media. That's where the media.
And the media. You need the media.
Definitely. Because if you have said that you've got a segment, you've been on a television show, that weighs a lot. Even if they didn't see it live, you should have that clip and actually have that. One of the things we do every year is Speak, Sell, Shine, where we actually help them get together the assets that shows in position as that speaker that people will pay thousands of dollars for. And so if you're starting out, start where you can. One of the things you said, every day I showed up on Facebook. So maybe the first few videos, maybe they were kind of crunchy, but you were persistent. So, I always say progress over perfection. Please just get started. Don't stay stuck, and get in communities with other speakers. Who are some of your role models, I guess you would say, or some of your mentors that you look to now that kind of keep you going or motivating? I know we both have this, our mutual friend Brian, Black Speakers Network. That's one of the ones as well. But who are some of the other ones?
Yeah, I'm so energized by, there's so many phenomenal speakers out there. We talk about George Fraser. We talk about Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. We talk about Les Brown.
Yeah.
We talk about Simon T. Bailey. We talk about Crystal Washington. There's so many, Anton Gunn. There's so many, a spectrum of so many great speakers.
You said something here, and I want the ladies to hear this. He rattled off about 5 or 6 men. Now, Speakers Magazine is for both men and women, and mostly women are on the cover. But when he rattled off some of the, so this is the thing, I'm gonna go off a little bit. I want the women to not just look good, but to be paid well. Yeah. Okay. So we could be on the cover of the magazines and we have all the beautiful pictures and we're taking photo shoots every other day. But when he named off, anti-gun and all of the men, I had Robert Kennedy on not too long ago. I mean, so we want to make sure that the women are in there.
Yeah, they are. You mentioned one of them early, Quinn. Quinn is killing it in the MC realm. And like I just said, Crystal, there's so many great
Cindy Trim is one of my favorite. I know she's a pastor.
No, but she's out there. She's out there doing it. And there's so many great speakers out there. And I tell my clients all the time, the only thing you're missing is that light bulb to shine on you. People just need to be exposed to you. And that's what social media does. That's what PR does for you. It gets that light to get shined on you. Because once again, if they don't know you exist, they can't hire you. And how many times have you been to a conference and you've been to a seminar and you're like, I can do better than that person? Well, that person had the assets that you call, right? The assets They had the program, they called, they made they sent out the email. And so choosing between them and you that they don't know, they can only choose from who they can choose. And
Yeah.
so at least be a part of the conversation. And that's a part of what Pam teaches in PR and having, she called them assets. You got to look at it as assets, the book, the reel, this is a business. And so invest back in
Clean up your social media. Clean
yourself.
it up. I said, just like you're gonna do spring cleaning or whatever, clean it up. You know, it's like these are the things. Clean up when you get new pictures or new things, put them up. You never want people to go to a dead link or something that's past. So keep that because people are Googling you all the time. And so I always tell people make sure that that is always pristine. Your storefront of is your website. You want to make sure that is always working and you want to pay someone to maintain that. There's
Mhm.
nothing worse than having a technical nightmare. You're a speaker, you're not an IT guy. So you want to make sure that you're using all the tools and the AI things. We could go a whole nother hour about that, but
Mhm.
making sure that people are using all the things that are available. It's easier. Would you say it's easier today than it was when you started 15 years ago?
Oh my God. If I think about this all the time, we just talked about this. We started with Blog Talk Radio, right? If if I would have had all of these ways to get my message out 15 years ago, where I see now, I mean, this is for free. You can get
Even the
your
books are
message out.
easier to do now.
The books are easier to do. There's, the gatekeepers really have been
Gone.
removed, and you can create your own influence and your own celebrity, right? I have this thing that I call dominate your backyard. And it's about becoming the celebrity in your own backyard. So getting with those local news people,
Yeah.
sending out, I know you'll appreciate this. I just sent out a press release and
Come on now.
came out in the local newspaper, right?
Yeah.
So once again, you're thinking that it's this little thing, my local newspaper. But if you brand it the right way, Pam that looks at it in Michigan, she don't know it's the little local newspaper. She just knows Dr. Will was in the newspaper. And if
Right.
Dr. News is in the newspaper, guess what? He's newsworthy. If he's
Yeah.
newsworthy, then he's probably worth this $20,000 check that he's asking for.
I love that. I love it. That is it. You send out the press release, send it out so it gets picked up by the local because they have high domain authority. I don't care how local it is. On the internet, news organizations have high domain authority.
I,
Those are the ones that producers look at. So
I don't know
people
how
want to
many times I've done a local something and it's gotten picked up by Yahoo and got picked up by like I'll Google I do this all the time. I'll Google myself. Like, let me see what the streets are saying about Dr. Will, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, when did I do something for Yahoo? And I'll see affiliate link, ABC 15. I'll see affiliate link. Like, they picked up this story. I didn't even know. So go Google yourself. See what them streets are saying about you.
That is it. That is it. Dr. Blue Genius says exposure is everything. That is
Everything.
so true. So true. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, for sharing your wisdom, uh, and your nuggets and that kind of thing. People can go to drwillspeaks.com and get more information. But thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to what you're going to be doing this year. Come back if you have something that you have an event that you're doing. Just let me know about that. Okay.
Thank you so much. I always enjoy hanging out with you, Pam.
All right. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.